I almost made a grave mistake. I forgot my hat, but luckily I have one in the truck, an extra one. So let's see where we are today. I know what I'm going to be doing. Let's check out since last video. So I don't know if y'all even saw this. I just loaded it up with everything that was in this barn that was heavy, besides like skid steer forks, which would have kind of been sick, but the skid steer ain't here. And what I have to do now is make some peanut butter to get a nice fillet going around all the way around. And then what I'll go ahead and do is tab it in. I'm going to tab it in to the hole. I'm going to tab each board to each other all the way across, and then I'm going to lay the chop strand mat on top.
But first, got to get everything off the boat.
Now it's time to clean this off a little bit in fiberglass.
But first things first, we have to put in the peanut butter fillets to make a nice radius, as well as this is going to be filling the gaps in between the wood and the hull. I did have to change up the recipe here a little bit because I noticed I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough resin for the tabbing and the cross strand mat on the entire deck. So what I did, instead of doing the typical with the, a little bit of cabosil, a little bit of chop strand, I went with a lot of chop strand and I added in micro balloons. A little more difficult, but it does the job. I had to do what I had to do to conserve the products that I had on hand in order to actually get this done today and tomorrow.
All right, let's see what's going on here. Let's start off where I started off, which is kind of around this corner here. And you can already tell that it's dry. I could have put a little bit more right there, but I think for now that's good. You can see where some areas there's a little bit more. See the corner radius. And then finally this corner. So obviously there's a big gap. I actually took some wood as coring. I coated it in the peanut butter. I put those in there where there was a kind of a big gap, and then I just peanut buttered the rest in. I got as far around back as I possibly could, and I must say, pretty happy with that, how that one turned out. And we follow it all the way around. We have a little bit of a warping issue here where the back piece right over here is a little bit higher, so I tried to taper it off a little bit. Probably could have come out a little bit more now that I'm looking at it again. But then we'll keep on following here. I actually had a problem where it got a little bit too lumpy. Like, I don't know what happened, the way it dried or the way I set it. Maybe I put it on, I just didn't spread it properly because it didn't look too good, and there's going to be a lot of air gaps. And then come on over here. I wanted to do the same idea. You could just keep on following it around. And then here we had a little bit more of a warp issue. So what I did was I brought in the heaviest stuff and put it all right here. Allowed this to dry, and now that I look at it, it is not very pretty, but maybe I'll come back. I'll probably come back and touch that up right after this and before I lay. And then this was a troubling spot because how I did the line, instead of just bringing it all along here, I had to mess with this like lump, and I just had to pack in some peanut butter right there. I did the same idea with more core right there. You can kind of see the wood here, and then more right here. This was a little bit lower, so I just kind of tapered it so it would work out well. And same idea over here. And I did a little bit more work right there so that when I build the box, I can build the box like right here around it, because that's how this is going to be. There's going to be a box that hides those hoses, and that's about it.
Now on to the tabbing. I already made all my measurements in boat, but now I'm just transferring those measurements over to the actual 1708 in order to get the cuts, lay it down after acetoning it, of course, so we can set it up with some resin.
Alright, let's start at the stern to see what's going on. We have the tabbing that'll be going along the bottom of the transom. We have a cutout for that hole right there, which will have the fuel line and some wires and whatnot come up through there. And then we have the tabbing going all the way along, overlapping as we go. I still have those few things on there. We have it going all the way to the bow. Then we're coming all the way back, same idea. We hit a gap right there in between, and then it goes back all the way to the stern. Now let's also not forget the fact that we have the tabbing going across where each of these boards touch to make sure it's even more sturdy than just the chop strand mat. And right here we are obviously breaking for the fish box access, and then we have that little 1.5 foot tab up there.
Nothing much to say here other than rolling this resin into the 1708 is kind of a bitch because it's so thick and it takes so long to soak it all up and get underneath that it made things a little bit more difficult than how I did it previously by just dunking the 1708 in the resin. But overall, I think it was easier this way because everything was already laid out. I could dump the resin on it and it was quicker as well, even though I had to work a little bit harder to get that resin through the 1708. Well, that's it for today. Camera died, so y'all didn't get to see the whole process, but you can kind of see we have everything tabbed in, just a single layer everywhere. Seams all along. Tried to soak as well as I could where the where it overlaps. Obviously that takes more resin. I think that'll soak in as it dries, just kind of like it did over here. That whole entire area right there is an overlap, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. That white up there is actually that paint that is down in the fish box. That is not air gaps. That white, however, I don't know. I don't know why that's there. I've soaked it, but you can kind of see how it is. There's another overlap. And then this spot, again, I have soaked it. I've taken it up and I've put more resin underneath, like in between the two layers, but it still looks like that. So I don't know what to say. But as for today, that's that. Next step is laying the actual chop strand mat all along this. Well, I guess next step is cleaning it again, and then I'll be able to lay the chop strand mat all along, and then the deck will officially be in there. Then I'll have to do some sanding and some fairing and then paint. So I'm looking forward to all that. That'll be a good time. All right, it's the next day. Has not been 24 hours quite yet. I don't know, it's actually probably been 18 hours or so since it finally sat up, but let's take a look at how it is. It's exactly how I left it, which that's good, but a little bit drier, as we can see. There's still a little bit of tackiness. Well, not as much as I thought there would be, but I could still feel it a little bit. And I stuck over there pretty good. I feel like there are a few spots that are going to have some air in it, but I don't know what to tell you. This boat should just be the it ain't perfect but it's good enough boat, because that's kind of how I'm looking at it. It's going to do just fine. It ain't perfect. There's still some air. Even in that, you can see the movement a little bit, even though I put so much in there. So unfortunately we still got air in there. I'm also going to be hitting some extra tabbing on there in a few spots that I feel like needs it, and then I think that'll help it just that little bit more. And today I actually really just have to clean up, and we're going to fiberglass over the whole entire deck so we can prepare for the rear seats as well as for fairing. But first I got to make sure everything is good, and I may want to hit some yeah, so let me get this stuff out of the boat, and then I'll be able to clean it up a little bit more and get to the big fiberglass things. I'm going to chop strand mat the entire deck, and then I'm going to hit some tabbing afterwards, just cause. And here it is. I've been waiting for this moment ever since I brought the boat home. Like, we have the deck in there, peanut butter tabbed in, but this is really the final step to the deck. Of course, fairing and sanding, sure, but like to encapsulate it and fiberglass it in, I'm stoked. And as I was doing this, I actually had an idea. Well, as you can see, I decided to layer it on a good amount. I was just going to do one single layer, but then the way it overlapped, sure, there's some areas with one layer, some areas with more. Like in the middle, there's obviously 3 layers where both of these overlap, and actually I'm going to cut out a little bit more for the front, but I don't know. I figured 3 layers in some spots, 2 layers in other spots. That'll be better than just 1 layer across the whole thing. And yeah, I'm actually kind of stoked on that. Cool. That is until I actually started to lay it up with resin and so I think I underestimated something. The amount of resin that I have
And this chopped shear mat takes a lot, which I knew, but I wasn't really thinking about that when I was layering it up 3 layers deep in the center. So I'm gonna go through and just make it 1 layer all the way across, so I can get it, you know, if I have extra resin, which I don't think I will, I think I'm gonna be like perfect on resin, at least I hope. If I have extra resin, then I'll just, I don't know, maybe come back by and lay this down. Sure, it'll all be wet already, but I'll be able to lay it down on top and go from there. But I don't wanna get halfway through and then run out of resin and then I have to order more and then wait a week or whatever. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut this off so it's just 1 single layer. So yeah, I wasted time cutting all those out, but whatever.
And a quick message from Current Day Forest, that was really satisfying to rewatch.
All right, so I think we're good. I have this mask on obviously because it reeks. You don't want to be breathing this stuff in all the time. Should probably be wearing a respirator, but I'm not. And you can see it right there, maybe, I don't know. Can't see exactly what y'all see, but obviously there are a few spots, again, that have, you know, they're a little bit white, but in my defense back here, I actually ran out of resin. As a matter of fact, I ran out of resin, at least all that I could pour out of the tops, so I had to cut them open and literally cut them open because I couldn't pry them open for the life of me. So I just made some slits in the side here and I was just able to cut them open and get as much as possible. It looks like there's more in there than there really is, but that's the stuff that kind of accumulates on the side as you're pouring it out. I could get that out, but it'll take forever. And, you know, I broke open 2. And that was just about perfect. But while I did that, this set up just enough to where it was hard to penetrate through. I'll have some grinding to do and whatnot, but overall, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I am not gonna lie. You can see it all the way at the front there, and just kind of how it rolls all the way back. And you can tell exactly where I started getting a little short on resin, or at least when I noticed it, right around that tabbing right there, as you can see. But again, I'm happy with it. It ain't perfect, but it's good enough for me. When I come back, I'll be able to hit the boxes, box 1, box 2, fiberglass those in, and then it'll be time for fairing, and it'll be time for sanding, and it'll be time for painting. But that ain't happening in this video. I hope y'all enjoyed me putting the deck down and doing all that fiberglass work. Yeah, y'all have a good day. I'll see y'all next week.